Sevgim söyle.
Hello, hello.
Hey everyone, welcome to Season 4 of Sugidama Podcast, the podcast about Japanese sake, the drink that brings people together. This is episode 37, and I can't believe that I've managed to make 36 episodes already. And this is the fourth season, which will consist mostly of interviews with very interesting people. But before we talk about it, let me tell you about our sponsor, who is still with us, hey, London Sake, and who has one of the widest selection of premium and craft sake available online today. You can choose from over 100 sake from 25 breweries, and they will deliver across the UK and many European markets. And if you don't know what sake to choose, you can use simple online tasting notes, together with very sensible and affordable food pairings to help you decide. What's more, you can get a 10% discount by just using the code SUGIDAMA, all caps, during checkout. London Sake, making sake simple. And just to remind you, my name is Alex, and I live in London. I'm a certified sake specialist, sake judge, sake educator, and sake advocate. Besides this podcast, I've got Sugidama blog, where I write about all things sake and publish tasting notes, overviews, and information about sake events happening in London. So, there are a few themes of mini-series in this season. The first one is called Brewery Focus and consists of interviews with sake importers, where we taste it and discuss sake from a particular brewery from their portfolio. I want to stress that these interviews are not in any way paid for by the importers, as any interview I do on this podcast. But they obviously shared sake with me during the interviews, so we could discuss them. The second mini-series, Sake Around the World, about sake scene outside London. And by that, I mean both other UK regions and other countries. So we will hear from people living and selling and drinking sake in Birmingham, Manchester, Paris, New York, and Hong Kong. Quite exciting, is it? Another exciting news is that together with London Sake, we decided to run a fun competition for you. I will announce details in January, but the idea is to encourage you, my listeners, to share your sake and food pairing experience. It might be a story, a photo with suggestions, or even a recipe. The prizes will include t-shirts, discounts, and sake, of course. We need to polish the rules a bit and decide how to deal with winners who live outside the UK, or at least outside Europe, as alcohol regulations might vary from country to country. But yeah, bear with us. We will get there. Okay. Today, I want to tell you a bit about the British Sake Association event, which happened in October, and I'd like to give you some feel of it. The event is called BSA, the British Sake Association 2022 Grand Tasting of Sake. It usually takes place every year and includes a lot of sake, which you can taste and enjoy together with presentations from sake makers and sake importers. So, first of all, what is the British Sake Association, of which I am a member? You can listen to episode 32, where I talk to Marie Chung Tong, the president of the BSA, but in a nutshell, the BSA is a not-for-profit organization which was established more than 15 years ago and run by volunteers to provide opportunities for people to taste a wide range of sake and to meet brewers and everyone else in the sake world. If you have a strong interest in sake, it's a great organization to join. The BSA team runs a lot of interesting events, including, of course, the annual Grand Tasting, the upcoming Zaku Masterclass dinner, the announcement of which you have probably seen already on my website, various sake study groups, and so on. So the Grand Sake Tasting was a very cool event where you could taste over 100 different sake, a lot of which are not available in the UK. You can talk to interesting, like-minded people, attend a few sessions with brewers, win a prize in a raffle, and just had a great time. We decided to record a few mini interviews and release them in the first episode of Season 4. I planned to start the season in November, but it was delayed a bit, so here we are with 8 short interviews from the event. A word of warning, it's my second experience recording at a big noisy event. You might remember the last episode of the previous season, episode 36, about the International Wine Challenge Sake section. I had a few sound bites from the sake tasting at the Embassy of Japan in London. This time, the sound quality is a bit rough. I apologize for that. It was entirely my fault. I checked a couple of the first interviews and they sounded okay, but then the general sound level in the hall went up and the people had to speak louder during the interviews, which overloaded the mic a bit. So you will hear so-called clippings, which might be a bit annoying. I tried my best with the help of people on the internet to get rid of them. I managed to make them okay, but yeah, they're still there. So here you are. So the first, we talked to Natalie from the Kampai brewery about her sake story, how she got into sake and what she's looking forward in the next year.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we're here at the British Sake Association Grand Sake Tasting, and our first speaker. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Natalie. I'm one of the brewers for Kampai London Craft Sake. So we're a sake brewery in Peckham, so local sake. We are using traditional kind of Japanese techniques, but making sort of more of a contemporary sort of style of sake.
So what is your sake story? How you got into sake?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I've been working for Kampai since 2019, which is when I started with them sort of mid-year. But my sake story sort of started in 2018. So my background is sort of more in the wine industry. So I worked for about 15 years in the wine industry. And then a friend of mine who is Japanese, but she's a winemaker in France, she said to me one day, you know, would you like to go to Japan? Would you like to work in sake? And I said, as an offhand comment, yeah, sure, if there was an opportunity, yeah, I would definitely jump on it. And then she got in contact with me in 2018 and said, I found a sake brewery that is going to take you on, so can you get a visa? And I was totally like blown away by it because I wasn't actually expecting that anything would come of her offer. So I essentially, you know, got in contact with the sake brewery. You know, I couldn't in the end get a visa. It was quite tricky to get a visa. So I went over just as an unpaid intern essentially. And I worked for 6 months for a brewery called Matsuno Tsukasa, so in Shiga, with an amazing Toji Keizo Yoshida, who is still kind of one of my best friends to this day. We're in contact, you know, almost on a weekly basis about our sake journeys, but also just as friends. So, yeah, after my 6 months in Japan, I came back to London and then I applied for a job with Tom and Lucy from Kampai and they said yes. So I came aboard as their first brewer, their first employee. Yeah.
It's amazing story. It's amazing story. It's just like you didn't expect something and then...
Yeah, it's quite serendipitous actually. I didn't, when I went to Japan, I thought, 6 months working holiday would be really interesting. I'm already working in other forms of alcohol production. So I had done a little bit of beer brewing, some cider. I had done the wine industry for really 15 years and about 7 years in Europe doing wine production. So for me, sake was just an interesting drinks category to explore. And then once I was there, I fell in love with the whole production process, the drink itself, you know, the Japanese culture, my colleagues, the whole, you know, the whole package was, you know, revolutionary actually for me. And yeah, it's changed my life.
All right. So how did you find working because sake brewing is quite male dominated area still. So how did you find it, especially in Japan?
Yeah. I think I was quite lucky because the brewery I worked for was quite progressive. So I wasn't the only female actually working in the production. There was one other female as well. And also very young Toji, who's only a couple of years older than me. So when I was there, he was just turning 40 or just 30 or 39. And he had very kind of progressive ideas. So he wanted women involved. He wanted foreigners involved as well. He's also a big wine fan. So he has, quite a lot of concepts that he does within his sake brewing, which are kind of a little bit, owing to the wine industry. So has a focus on terroir, on not necessarily on wine-making styles, but this idea of terroir within the sake. So he was very interested to have someone from a wine background working for him. And, we were actually also quite lucky because we weren't working from 4 a.m. until like 8 p.m. We were sort of more kind of common hours, 7 until 5, and then sometimes a bit later in the evening. And I did live on site at the brewery for about 3 months of my time there. So I was sort of very immersed in it. And I was really accepted as part of the team. They were very welcoming, and they I think by the end of it, I was just one of the, I was just the background. I wasn't even considered the, the white, blonde female, working at the brewery. I was just another kurabito. So it was great.
It's an amazing story. It's amazing. So what are you looking forward now to?
With Kampai, I'm fairly enmeshed in Kampai as a brand and as a brewery. I'm quite loyal to Tom and Lucy, and I really want to further, not only Kampai sake, but also sake here in the UK, because I think this is quite an exciting market to be in. I suppose eventually always the goal is to try and do something Japan related in the future, whether that be with Matsunasu Casa, or I'm from Australia, so maybe something a bit closer to home. Because there is a sake brewery in Melbourne in Australia where I'm from now, which is quite exciting. But really the future for me will be with Kampai for at least, the foreseeable future.
Okay. Thanks so very much.
No problem. Pleasure. Thank you.
That was great, actually. I quite enjoyed it.
It's a great story. If you are interested in Kampai Brewery, I had an interview with Tom, the head brewer and owner of the brewery, back in summer. It's episode 34. It's definitely worth listening to. The next person we had a conversation with was Chie-san from Wakaze, a French sake brand.
We continue our small interviews for this episode at the British Sake Association event. And now we're talking to, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Chie. I'm from Wakaze, sake brewery based in Paris. So we make sake with using traditional Japanese methods, but using French ingredients. So sake, rice and water, everything made in France. The reason why we make it in sake, because we want people to drink sake more casually with your friends or your family. And France is one of the biggest wine markets. So we want wine drinker to enjoy more sake casually. So sake for everyone, that's our concept and the motto.
So how did you get into sake?
Actually, I used to work at the Japanese food supplier before, and then that's how I met the CEO of Wakaze. And then he has a very big passion about sake, and then I really like working with him. I really like the branding with Wakaze sake, because as you can see, it's a bit different from traditional Japanese sake. Blending, how we originally making in Paris is very different originally, but also you can see the level is not, we don't use the Japanese kanji or letters, so it's really different. And then I found that it's very interesting, and the people who work that sake brewery are same age as me, like around 30s. And then I really like the young vibes, yes. I'm very happy to work for them.
So do you remember how you tried your first sake, or was it like a casually, or it was something like a aha moment?
My very, very first time trying sake was when I was little. For the New Year's, we usually celebrate New Year's in Japan. And I remember my mom put the sake with egg. So my mom made a egg sake, and which my grandpa loved it, and it's usually very hot. But then, since it's warmed up, some alcohol is gone with the heat. So I also enjoyed that. That's how I started.
Wow, I've never heard such a story about people trying sake with egg.
When they
were very little.
So that's how we started sake tasting. Not drinking like a shot, just that some with the finger or
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, interesting.
twist
Wow.
that. Yeah.
So what are you looking forward in terms of sake, wakaze?
Wakaze, we want to, as I said, we want a lot of wine drinker to drink sake more casually. So we want to expand this sake business to whole Europe. That's what we want to do.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Oh, it was the most amazing story of trying sake for the first time. Sake and egg, hot, wow. And it was my first time trying wakaze sake. You can taste that it's aimed at wine drinkers, definitely. It has the high acidity and elegance of French white wine. Very nice and refreshing. And another thing, if you are a fan of anime, they have an Attack on Titan sake. Pretty cool, hmm? After speaking to 2 European sake breweries, we spoke to Hiroyuki-san, who is a UK representative of Shirakabigura, a very well-known sake brewery here in the UK, especially for its sparkling Mio sake, which you might find even in your local Sainsbury's.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, yeah. Our company, our brewery is called Shirakabegura and located in Kobe. As you know, Kobe is very famous for Kobe beef, but also the Kobe is very famous place for good sake brewery because the water source is very good. So we have the 5 different products here today, and especially I would like you to try our sparkling sake, which is called Mio. This sake, although taste is quite sweet, but the ingredients are only rice, yeast, and water. So we haven't added any sugar or flavor. So really natural sweetness and flavor it has, and that came from natural fermentation. And also alcohol content is just 5%. So as you know, the regular sake contains around 15-16% of alcohol. So this one only contains 5%.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoy. It's very easy to drink. And also we have the other products. And especially we would also like to recommend these 3 products. These are actually not sake, but they're liqueur made with shochu. Shochu is Japanese spirits like vodka. And especially we recommend this one, which is matcha liqueur.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Matcha is, as you know, the powder form of green tea. And base is shochu, barley shochu. And we have added real matcha. So as you see there, this color, green color, is only derived from real matcha. So we haven't added any color or anything. And we are using the special premium type of sugar called wasambon sugar, usually used for manufacturing Japanese traditional sweets, wagashi. And that sugar has the really buttery texture, so that this matcha liqueur has the really good texture, and also the a little bit resemblance of the white chocolate type of a really good aroma and flavor as well.
So you work at the brewery?
Yes, I'm originally from Japan, but at the moment I'm based in London.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm representative of this brewery. Yes.
So how did you get into sake? How you became like working for a brewery?
When I was a student, I'm really liked drinking.
Okay.
Yeah, but to tell you honestly, I like beer the best. And I tried to get into the beer company, but I failed the test. So instead, our company, I passed the test, so I joined the company. So that's the reason.
Okay.
So very simple reason. I liked the alcohol. That's all.
So do you enjoy working for Shirakabigura?
Yes, because I actually working for this company for 35 years now.
Wow.
I joined the company in 1987.
Yeah.
And of course, I moved to different places, although working in the same company. So I used to live in America as well, doing the same job.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I'm living in UK for 17 years now.
So do you think it's UK market is good for Shirakabigura?
Yes, especially recent 5-6 years, our sparkling sake has become gradually very popular, especially among the customers who hasn't tried sake yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think our sparkling sake meal is very good for sake beginners. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, my local Sainsbury's they
Yes.
stock.
Oh
meals.
yes, 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 yeah. Thank you very much. Yes.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
all
thank you
the
so much.
best in your
Yes.
business.
Yeah, and same
I
to you.
hope to
Yes.
see more Shirakabigura sake in retail.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so
you.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a very inspiring story.
Yeah. Sorry. I think I talked too much.
No. It's
Shirakabigura sake is very well presented outside Japan. You can find it at London Sake, of course, but also in other sake shops and Asian supermarkets. The matcha liqueur Hiroyuki-san mentioned was amazing. It made by the parent company of Shirakabigura, Takara Shuzo, and it's called Kyoto Uji Matcha liqueur. I don't know where you can buy it here, but if you see Kyoto Uji Matcha liqueur anywhere, just go for it. You will not regret it. They also have peach and yuzu liqueurs, which are also superb. We also spoke to Marie Laura, a representative of another sake brewery, Tanaka Shuzoten, and their collaboration project with Francois Chartier, which is called Tanaka 1789X Chartier. It's a line of Tanaka sake, specially blended by Francois Chartier, who is an aroma specialist.
Okay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Maria Laura Ortiz from Tanaka Shusoten. I am the international sales director of the company, and we manage different products inside of it. One is Tanaka X Chartier. This is our high-end project, and Arrive Sake, and also other brands like Manatsuru, that is one of the traditional brands. We start to export more and more. Sake is something that is something new for some markets, like Mexico. In Mexico, we have a small importer, and we are trying to communicate the tradition and what is happening behind that. As I want to mention that the company is a very old company, 233 years, was founded in the 1789, and has been belonged to the same family until a couple of years ago. We are working with a new concept. For example, for Arrive Sake, we are working with a vegan. We have vegan certification. We have the kosher also that came here, kosher, and we are working on the organic certification for next year. So 14 generations of Toshi on there. Our Toshi has been there for fourth generation, so father, grandfather, and grandfather. So it's something unique and lovely because it's tradition, and they make everything by hand. And to open and conquer markets, on the 2017 they hire Francois Chartier, who is one of the top specialists in aromas, and he came to advise about how to create something different. He found the way that the blending could be something amazing. So they create this, that is a Tanaka 1789 X Chartier, that is a blended sake. And it's, for example, on this one, we have 7 different type of sakes inside, 3 types of rice and different type of yeast and temperature fermentation, and that is crafted for wine lovers. That is something different, higher in acidity, more fresh, more easy to drink, and more approachable for people who never drink sake. So it's a kind of welcome door.
First step.
Exactly. So they can start here. Of course, this is a high-end product, but people who drink, Chateau Petrus, they want to taste something different, and this could be the link with the sake industry.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So how did you get into sake? You ended up selling sake.
It's strange, no? Well, I am from Latin America. I am from Argentina, but I am a wine expert. I work in the International Association of Sommelier as a content director. So I am in contact with 65 countries. sommeliers of 65 countries, so I have a good network. I am an ambassador of the International Wine Challenge and judge also. I work with Tim Atkin. I am the right hand of the Master of Wine. And I work with different organizations like OIB, so really connected. I know how to sell. I am really passionate about that. So they invite me to be part, and I say, "Whoa!" But I don't know anything about sake, or maybe classification, something so superficial. So I started to learn about that. I have different careers and degrees and several MBAs. So that allowed me to understand better the market. And my last MBA was in luxury brand management. And I make that with top brands like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, and all the brands. And the idea is to apply this knowledge to Tanaka x Chartier.
Yeah.
So it's something different, and it's funny. It's funny to learn something new. It's a new environment for me also. So, and I am bringing all the knowledge of the wine industry to the sake industry. So we change now the labels. For example, these are, I will show you my favorite. Ocean. We create something, a new label. That this is arrived sake, but if you pronounce in Japanese, it's arrived sake. And it means like a dance with property, with joy, and it's the joy to dance and enjoy life. So, but it's easy to pronounce for foreign country. We create a nickname that is Ocean, so people don't need to remember Tokubetsu Junmaishu, Daikinjo, and all the Japanese name. And on the presentation and the pairings, as we have in the wine industry, I start to create all the pairings for this sake also. So it's to create experiences, to invite people to love sake and to discover, because when they discover the sake, they will be in love with that.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to try your sake when it's
Fantastic.
It's quite amazing how Tanaka Brewery, which has a history of more than 230 years, keeps its 100 years of traditions and innovates at the same time. It is what always inspired me in sake makers. They don't afraid to change while remaining true to their roots. Okay, before we listen to a few more mini conversations from the BSA Grand Tasting of Sake event, let me remind you about London Sake, our sponsor, and their huge selection of curated sake sets, which provide a great opportunity to explore various styles and types of sake. Have a look, but don't forget about the magic word Sugidama, all caps, to get your 10% discount. Now we have moved to sake specialists, sake educators, sake suppliers, and other people who work with sake. Here is a short conversation with Tony Yip, who is a sake and wine educator and sake retailer. You can treat this brief talk as a trailer for my conversation with Tony about the sake scene in France in my upcoming series Sake Around the World later in the season.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
So hi there everyone. My name is Tony Yip. I'm the director of BSF Wine Education, which is a wine, spirits and sake school based in London. But we also sell wine, spirits as well as sake as a retailer. So very nice to see very familiar faces. Thank you for interviewing with me.
Yeah. And so what is your sake story? How you got into sake?
So my sake story started long time ago because I am originally from Hong Kong, and when I was living in Hong Kong I had many opportunities to try sake, but at that time it was mainly in Japanese restaurants. But then I moved to Paris about 13 years ago, and in the beginning I was more focused on having French food and French wine as well. I spent a lot of time visiting different different vineyards. But then one day I had the chance to, be in a restaurant, and it was a French restaurant, but they used a sake to pair with the dishes.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting, and I was so fascinated by that. I thought, wow, there's such a potential, to use sake to pair with non-Japanese food, and so that's why I started to, read up on sake to learn more about sake, and I started to take courses to learn more about sake. Courses such as SSI, Kiki Sakeshi, WSET courses, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. So, what are you looking forward now? So, what are you thinking? Oh, I want to achieve something. Yeah.
So because I was so inspired and I really love sake, so I think part of my passion, project is to spread the gospel of sake to people in the UK, but also I'm living in Paris. So, from time to time, whenever I have the chance, to be invited to my friends' places and so on, I always bring a bottle of sake to introduce sake to my friends.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So please listen to my conversation with Tony about sake in France, which will be released later next year. My next guest is Peter McCombie, who is a master of wine and sake educator, writer, and sake and wine judge at the International Wine Challenge, where I met him for the first time.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Peter McCombie. I'm a master of wine. I'm chairman, or one of the chairmen of the International Wine Challenge, but within that, I also judge sake. So I come from a wine background, but I'm also a sake lover.
Okay. So how did you get into sake?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Actually, it was because of the competition, because the International Wine Challenge is the largest sake competition in the world. And the Japanese love it because it's not a Japanese competition. So it's a bit of external validation. Even though, a good number of the judges are Japanese, it's not a Japanese competition. Yeah. And so I think that's good. And part of the success, I think, is that we judge maybe a little less traditionally. Mm-hmm. So, in Japan, there's definitely, this style is supposed to taste like that. Yeah. Sometimes we go, yeah, but maybe it's really good anyway. Maybe not quite. And the truth is, sake is innovating anyway. It's not like sake is standing still in terms of style. Maybe, we help nudge things along a bit sometimes.
Okay. How do you find it?
Oh, it's great. It's a really good chance to taste things that maybe you don't normally taste. I mean, I've tasted tonight some sakes that are made in France, French ingredients and wine yeast rather than sake yeast. But so that's really interesting. And they quite deliberately are trying to target wine lovers. So I think that's an interesting story. And in fact, I then went and tasted something else, which is made in Japan, but also targeting wine lovers, and beautifully sophisticated packaging. And I guess they're saying, well, maybe who in the world, who's out there that might drink this, but may struggle with, for example, labels. Traditional labels are a nightmare if you don't read kanji. So the labels are bottlings are really smart. The labels are really clever, and the sakes are good. So I think that's quite interesting. And then the other one I've tasted, I'm only just starting, was sake made here in London, Kanpai. Yeah. So it's sort of quite interesting. That's three very different stories about sake, and then there's a whole room full of other sakes as well.
So do you think that wine is a good bridge for people?
I think it is. I think, speaking from personal experience, as someone who judges wine professionally, you use the same palette, but you almost have to stand on your head to interpret the results. So, for example, subtlety is valued a lot. I'm not saying it's not valued with wine, but you could say, it's a little bit like the equivalent of Pinot Grigio. If you like it, you think it's subtle. If you don't like it, you think it's bland. And I think sometimes, particularly the more rarefied sakes, maybe for somebody coming to it fresh, might seem a bit like, what? It's too delicate for its own good. But I still think wine is not a bad way to get into sake. And I think also food pairing is really important. I've done some work with sake producers looking at non-Japanese food and sake, and I think it's amazing how well it can work. So people have to be brave enough to try it. So, for example, there's a restaurant with a Michelin star called Trivet in London Bridge, and the sommelier there is Master Sommelier Isabel, really lovely guy, and he's got lots of sake on his list.
Yeah.
And so he'll just, if you ask for a glass of something, he might bring you sake, even though his background is wine. He thinks it's interesting, it goes with this dish. So I think we're beginning to see more and more of that. I think it's difficult for ordinary consumers to experiment. You've got to be quite brave, quite determined. But if you go to a restaurant where people are prepared to play around and show you different things, then I think that's a real opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. I'll do my best.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I think the topic of how much we should rely on the wine culture, vocabulary, and references when we talk about sake remains one of the most debatable among sake professionals. So it's quite interesting to hear Peter's take on it. The next person I spoke to was Michele Quarta, who works for Gordon Ramsay and is a bar manager and a specialist in sake cocktails. The topic, which has become so popular recently, as a very good way to introduce sake to those who never tried it.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Michele Quarta. I am the executive group bar manager for Gordon Ramsay.
Okay. So how did you get into sake?
Well,
what is your sake story?
Oh, my sake story exactly began like 6 years ago when I started my experience as a bar manager for a beautiful Japanese restaurant in Vauxhall. Our owner was very into whiskey and into sake. Okay. We had an amazing collection of whiskey and such an amazing list of sake. So my journey with sake began. I wanted to know more about sake because I developed a cocktail menu based on Buddhism compared to the question to the things of time, past, present, and future. Wow. And of course, I was involved with the sake. Yeah. So I wanted to know more about sake, how sake was made, what was the story, what is the polish ratio, what does it mean? So I was like, why they polish rice? Why they have a different quality of sake, rice? And there are, it's not just ginjo and Junmai ginjo. There are like a lot of different flavor sake, sparkling sake. And I started to experiment sake in my cocktails. And I discovered that sake is lovely, amazing to drink neat. Yeah. But can work inside cocktails as well. And I love it. I love to experiment. So I started to use sake 6 years ago in my menu.
I always was quite curious about sake and cocktails because it's not that strong like a soju.
At all. Yeah, you have.
So you have to be very careful.
Very careful. You have to be very careful with the pairing with sake. Of course, sake as a main ingredient, and then you have to choose very careful what to pair your sake with inside your cocktail. But believe me, it works so well. So well.
Do you use like a try and error, or you got like inspiration? Oh, this sake should be great for that.
Well, I was trying a lot because you know to find the balance, you always have to try. Yeah. To find the balance for the sake, and especially to find the balance with the other ingredients around the sake to enhance the sake flavor. You need to experiment a lot. I went more into some type of sake using for cocktails. I think ginjo is one of the best, but Junmai is very, very good as well. Always use carefully. And the ingredients around the sake, the best ones are fruity liquors. And one of my favorite is chestnut. Believe me, chestnut, if you use it very, very slow, in a very small portion, with sake, it works so well. Wow. Sake as a main ingredient, always. Not with other spirits, because if you put sake and gin, rum, whiskey, they are gonna cover, and the sake is gonna disappear completely. So sake as a main spirit, and then you work around the what you want to enhance as a flavor. Okay, cool. Another very interesting things to me about sake is the story, is the heritage about sake. It's almost like whiskey, older and older and older, because 1647. From 1647, his family is making sake, and there are older sake as well.
15 generation.
Exactly, 15 generations.
Yeah.
And to me, it's crazy, and it's everything around one thing: rice.
Yeah.
Just about rice. To me, it's a special thing. Less is more. Less is more is my philosophy when I make cocktails as well. Less is more.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you for your time. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy. It's a lot of sake to try.
I will.
Too many. Probably in your cocktail. Okay, thank you
so much.
I'm thinking to do an interview with Michele in my future season about sake in cocktails. So keep your eyes peeled. In the end, I decided to take a short interview with people who were walking around trying sake. So I stopped by two gentlemen who were enjoying their drinks and had a very short conversation with them.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Paul. I'm a chef and a fan of sake.
Yeah, I'm Richard and I'm a management consultant and I'm a huge fan of sake.
Okay. So how did you get into sake?
Well, I've been going to Japan for sort of 35 years, and that wasn't necessarily one of the first draws of going to Japan. Mostly the food, as I'm a chef, and obviously if anybody gives you any food, they offer you a drink, and then it's straight down the rabbit hole. So,
okay.
Yeah, for me, I think it was we're going to Japan, and my brother-in-law introduced me to sake. I think Hakkai-san was my first one I had. And then I wasn't instantly sold, but I just generally built off of them.
So how do you find this event so far?
Oh, well, it's a fantastic event because it gives an opportunity to taste lots of sakes from different regions, from different producers, and in London it's not always the easiest place in the world to find great sake. But at these events, they tend to, they appear here, and the opportunity to taste them is a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing event. I nearly didn't come. I've just come back from Japan last Monday, jet lagged still, waking up at 4 o'clock this morning. But I just thought this was a unique opportunity to come and taste over 100 different sake. And also, there's a guy, a brewer, has come over showing his off his sake.
Oh, yeah. Wakaze-san.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I'm just going for his masterclass. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. And it's wonderful to meet other people who love sake. Nothing unites people like a mutual passion. You can talk to anyone. Just met Paul tonight, and we're talking about sake because that's our common passion.
Perennially thirsty.
Yeah, I think what I love about sake is that it brings people together, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, enjoy your evening. Yeah, enjoy sake. It's a lot of taste. Thank you.
The great thing about sake is that it brings people together. We all might have different stories of how we fell in love with this beautiful drink, but the destination is the same. And Richard put it very well.
Cut.
Okay, I decided not to have one sake of the episode this time and just encourage you to go out and try something you've never tried before. If you live outside Japan and have a local sake brewery near you, like Kampai here in London or Wakaze in France, buy their sake. It's your jizake, as it's called in Japan, a local sake. If you never tried sake from any particular sake brewery, like Takara Shuzo or Tanaka Shuzoten, buy it. Or if you drink only Ginjo-style sake, try Junmai or Honjozo. It's always fun to discover something new. That's it for today. I'll be back with more interviews about various sake breweries and sake scenes around the world, as well as a few special episodes. In the meantime, as I urged you, buy a bottle of sake you've never tried and pair it with your favorite food. London sake is a good place to start, as they have Kanpai, Wakaze, Shirakabigure and Takara brands. Look up sake tasting notes on my website, sugidama.co.uk. If you have any questions or suggestions about any sake topic, just drop me a line. My email address is alex@sugidama.co.uk, or you can tag me on Instagram or Twitter @sugidamablog in one word, or now on Mastodon as well, where I am at sugidamablog@universeodon.com. Again, if you liked the episode and want more, hit the subscribe button, and you will get every new episode downloaded to your player as soon as it's out. If you would like to give me a bit of support, please leave a review or rate Sugidama Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or anywhere you can do it. But more importantly, please share this podcast with your friends on your social media, chat apps, anywhere. A lot of people mention a friend's recommendation as a reason for listening to a particular podcast. So you can be that friend and support Sugidama Podcast. And actually, the more people listen to this podcast, the more actively the podcasting platforms suggest it to other listeners. So it's the best way to bring new people to the world of sake. Thanks a lot for listening. Kampai.
Suge, 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 Sugidama blog. Suge, 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 Sugidama blog.